We're
That
way
sounds
off
good.
topic. Andrew, thanks for commenting on the leanness. You just know how to get invited back, dude. But do you all the changes that have been made, and John will have you pull up all the conference realignments that have been going on.
Yeah.
Do you think that the state of college football, do you think that all these changes are good or they're bad for the sport?
Oh, absolutely, they're good. You know what the adage is that no one likes change, and right now that's what's going through. It's going through change, and usually change is uncertain. And you can listen to any college football show, our show, and people don't know what they're talking about. Like they're saying, "Oh, so and so team's going to this, or they're not going to take them, or Notre Dame's going to do this," and no one knows. And so that's why it's scary. And people say, "Well, I like the traditions and blah blah." These old school rivalries, and a lot of them aren't even rivals anymore. Like a lot of these rivalries are lopsided. So let's get new rivals. Like you can only watch Michigan beat Ohio State once every 10 years. Then that's oh my god, and then Ohio State goes on another 10-year run or whatever. So I know there's a lot of tradition, but I think if you want college football to thrive and to keep going, we have to keep pushing. Like. My worst fear for college football is if it turned to baseball. Like I can't stand baseball because it's like, tradition and this, and it needs to get with it. So I think that the change is good, and we're going to work it out together. It's good. There will be some growing pains. I think college football in the next 5 years is going to be interesting because they're still going to be figuring things out, but I do believe it will be for the better for the longevity of the sport. And maybe, in 5, 10, 15 years, it won't be called college football. It might be, semi, or not semi-pro, but like the feeder league NFL or something. We might not even call it college football, but who knows?
Okay, so so Andrew thinks the change is good. Some of the changes, and thanks, John, for pulling this up. We have the University of Southern California and UCLA leaving the Pac-12 and heading to the Big Ten. We've got no new contenders joining the Pac-10. Go ahead and scroll down, John. The Big 12 conference, you have... joining the Big 12, you have BYU. I think that's University of Central Florida, Cincinnati and Houston joining. But then you have UCF. Oklahoma and Texas leaving, and I believe that they're going to the SEC.
Correct.
No one gives a fuck about the Sun Belt. I mean, but I will. I will. That's kind of rude. That's the snobbery. The Sun
we
Belt,
care about our mid majors here.
We have joining the Sun Belt Conference James Madison, Marshall, Old Dominion, and Southern Miss, leaving Little Rock and UT Arlington.
I'm excited to see how James Madison does.
Yeah, I don't even know who that is. But then
how's his sister Ashley?
What?
Stupid joke. Stupid.
I got it.
Conference USA, we have Jacksonville State joining, Liberty, New Mexico State, and Sam Houston leaving. We have Charlotte, FAU, Marshall, North Texas, Old Dominion, Southern, Rice, and Southern Miss, UAB, and University of Texas El Paso are leaving. Sun Conference, we have got Austin P. What is that?
Really, in those conferences,
Austin Peay
aren't making any money.
No, they're not.
And these conferences, these are like jumped up AA schools at this point.
So what I would think.
Sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
What I was thinking, because we could keep reading these off, but essentially, I was thinking there should be probably 4 major conferences. You could call it the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, or ACC, whatever, or just 4 of them with about 14 to 15 teams. And then I think those are the teams that are going to be the big money makers that are going to be playing for all the bowl games. And then maybe have another conference, or maybe even like another a playoff, and the winner of like these other conferences that like don't make money get a chance to play in the playoff, and maybe expand the playoff to 12 teams or something like that. But I think that for the most part, you have 4 big conferences where all the legacy teams are going to be in.
So, and I want to pause there because that's a good and valid point. but I want to get DeMarco's feedback. DeMarco, what do you think? Do you think that all the conference realignment, and then also, and I want to also put a caveat here. I think that people getting paid for playing college football is awesome. I think that think it's incredibly fair. I think that it's something that needed to happen, but just overdue. Because that's happening, it's probably may not be the best thing for the sport with regards to you're going to, what I'm afraid is going to happen is college football is going to turn into the MLB. But I'm talking too much, and I'll get into my what I think. But before I get into that, John, what do you think?
So I think the conference realignment in some ways is good. I think I like when, conferences expand. My caveat to that would be I'm a boomer. I like geographically relevant conferences. And I think, I don't like, it pisses me off UCLA and USC going to the Big Ten, because then, I don't want to be a total boomer and be like tradition, but like my grandfather played in the Rose Bowl for Illinois and for Purdue. My dad coached in the Rose Bowl. I went to the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl in American sports, the Rose Bowl is one of the most historically important sporting events. It's up there with the Super Bowl and with, the World Series, in my opinion. You just decimate that. Like, so what? USC and UCLA aren't going to go, so who are we going to get? Like, fucking USC plays Oregon in the Rose Bowl? Like, I don't like that, but, like, the bowls at this point have become nearly irrelevant with the playoff system. I think they need to change the playoff system. Well, I'll get to that, but conference-wise, I'm not a fan of USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten just for TV money. I think with college football, like, and I guess I have a more nuanced take on it, just because I grew up in college football. My dad was a college football coach my entire life. I grew up going to, big football games every weekend, and like living in, I mean, when you coach for a team, you hella do, but when you're a member of a family where one of your family members, like especially if your dad is like, his employment and our livelihood depend on how Purdue does. Like, we lived and died by football, and like the intensity that college football has, I don't think is matched in any other sport. The closest I would think would be NBA basketball, in terms of like, for me at least, in terms of interest. I like NFL football. I don't feel that attached to NFL football. I think the thing with the other thing about why I think the geographically relevant conferences matter is because of how essential college football has become to the American economy. Like small town, college town economy, especially for these big D1 schools. And like, I happen to live in one. If UCLA and USC leave, and then they eventually take, like, say Stanford and Oregon bolt, or Stanford and Washington go too, then that fucks you don't get the Civil War every year. You don't get the Apple Cup every year. And yeah, the rivalries can be lopsided, and yeah, they're old. They don't necessarily matter in terms of like the bigger picture, but in terms of like local cultures, college town cultures, they matter a hell of a lot more than the national championship in a lot of ways. Like if you take the Civil War away, that's an insane amount of money that goes away from a town like Corvallis. Or if like, in Seattle, if they have the Apple Cup in Seattle, probably doesn't make that big a dent in terms of like revenue for people who need it. But if you go to Spokane, you sure as shit are making a huge dent in potentially in the town's economy. But then in terms of football, I think it will be like, in terms of quality of play, it'll be great, because you'll have more, like, especially the Big Ten, like, good God, the football there is already so good. Now it's going to be a whole nother thing by having UCLA and USC in it.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of on the fence. You're not 100% in. Andrew is team progress. Yeah. This is the future. Let's fucking go. I'm going to give my Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I'll give my 2 cents really quick.
Okay, yeah. I just think that those small towns, like you were saying, there's still going to be college football there, and I think that you could find just new rivalries. Maybe Oregon State and Boise State become the new Oregon. Oregon State
that would be awesome.
Like that. And then I think that it's just going to be new rivalries, new games, and not to say that you still can't have the old rivalries even when they do these new conferences and realignments.
The only thing that I'll add real quick before Rick you go is that the other thing you have to take into account is that for the Big Ten, it's really not that big a deal. Because those schools, between the money they make from now with CBS and the money they've been making with their own television network for the past decade or so, they don't need any money. They don't need to worry about money. So like having to fly to LA potentially twice a year, probably won't be that bad for those schools. But then when you throw in smaller schools that now are going to have to take, potentially have these kind of bigger, more spread out conferences, like you had that issue with West Virginia and the Big 12 for the past 5 or 6 years, where their travel budgets just like quadrupled because of, just how far they have to go to play in conference games. That like smaller schools like that, or OSU is kind of in that. The football program is like, they pay into the university, they make more money, but then you kind of really potentially damage the like university's income by doing like so much travel.
So I don't want to get too far in the weeds on universal spending. I mean, if we're going to talk about it, we need to think about it in terms of why this is happening is because of TV deals, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
so
it's all because of TV.
Let's stick to
that.
That
was the last Big Ten expansion was solely because of TV. Yeah. They got Nebraska because they thought like, oh, Nebraska could be good, and they got Maryland and Rutgers only because they were in the DC and New York TV markets.
Yeah. So I'm going to say this. This is how I feel. I'm going fucking full boomer on this. Number one.
Really?
All right. 100%.
I'm very surprised.
Okay.
I figured you'd love the chaos.
No, and normally I would agree with you. Normally I'd love it. And there's a part of me that does. But I'm afraid of all the schools that are going to get left behind, because I am a member of one of the fucking smaller schools, and that's Oregon State. And I'm a Beaver fan, and I'm incredibly salty. I hate Oregon because of all the money that Uncle Phil gives them, and I can't stand. We're the giant killers. Yeah, My concern is I like the rivalry. I like that Andrew's a Duck fan, and that we, when we first met each other, that was one of the things that popped up as he was a douchebag because he was an Oregon Duck fan. I'm afraid of losing that. I don't like that USC and UCLA are no longer a member of the Pac-12. I hate it. I'm concerned that. And I'm not. I mean, if you look at Nick Saban in the comments, he's said he's concerned because Alabama's hegemony over college football is at risk because they don't have the amount of money that a school like Texas or Texas, Penn
Texas
State,
is rich as hell.
They have all the Houston, all the SMU. Now, and I'll get to the other caveats of this a little bit later, but I think it's going to kill the sport, because I think that these regional based teams, like people that are in Nebraska, you have Nebraska, Colorado, those two people pay attention because they used to be rivals. You have Oregon State, Oregon, they're huge rivals. The Apple Cup, huge rivalries. You have Ohio, well, that's still going to go down, but I'm afraid of losing those rivalries. I like the tradition. Now, on that end, I am kind of excited about all the fuckery that's going on. I'm excited because who knows? Maybe in like 5 to 10 years, SMU will be another powerhouse again because of all the money that they had, and that they were the only team that got the death penalty, and now they can pay their players. Like maybe there's going to be some really small, insignificant conferences or schools that have a shit ton of money. They're all of a sudden
SMU
like powerhouse.
Already paid their players $36,000. They paid their players right now like a base salary of $36,000 already. Legal, so every player. I love
who
that.
knows? Yeah, and who knows?
Love that.
Maybe Texas, the University of Texas, or not Texas, the state of Texas will have like the best college football in the state, and it'll take it away from the SEC. I don't know. So I am excited to see the changes, but I feel like we're in a very dangerous position where a lot of it, maybe the older people that are in their like, you know, mid 40s to like late 60s, they're going to be like, what the fuck is going on? I hate this. I don't know.
But what's going to change though? Like say even the last 10 years, how many different champions have we had?
Not that many.
Four,
you're gonna have, it's going to be the same thing. So like people are saying these smaller schools are going to get fucked. Well, I don't really see the difference, you know. Like we've had the Clemsons, Alabamas.
They need to have like just do a whole new level, you know, like split Division 1 into a new Division 1 and Division Double A or something.
So that's exactly what I was talking about earlier when I actually wrote like I was bored and I actually have like a hypothetical 14-team SEC, a 14-team Big Ten, a 14-team Big 12.
Let's hear this.
Which one do you want to hear?
I want to hear all of
it.
it.
Big Ten. Yeah, I want to hear Big Ten.
Okay, well, we'll start with Big Ten. So this is, and I just kind of did this quick, so if there are some mistakes or if I didn't name one, but this is what I was saying. So you got your Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Nebraska, USC, UCLA. And this is where it gets fun. South Carolina, Indiana, Iowa, Notre Dame, Stanford.
I mean, yeah, I'm into it. I mean,
okay, here. All right. I'll give you my Big 12.
All right.
Oklahoma State, Baylor, Texas Tech, TCU, Iowa State, Kansas, Oregon, Washington, Vanderbilt, Purdue, Illinois, Northwestern, Oregon State.
What? No.
I love it.
I'm out.
No, he's selling me, dude.
I was on the first one.
No,
out.
I'm being sold right now. This is interesting. We could play
ACC.
the Cyclones. Okay.
Great.
Clemson, Miami, Florida State, North Carolina, Pitt, Virginia Tech, Louisville, Arizona State, Kentucky, Maryland, Rutgers, Colorado, Cal.
This is terrible. I'm out now. I'm
out.
So you just got rid of the Pac-12, bro.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What?
Absolutely, I did.
Why did you do this?
I hate it. I hate this.
Do you know why? Because listen, I've been in the Midwest, East Coast, and I'm kind of feeling their bias. Like the majority of the population lives in this time zone, and the majority of the population does not give a fuck about Pac-12. I promise you, I've been here for 2 years. As soon as Ohio State is done playing, they turn the TV off. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, but that's no different in the SEC because they only care about their school.
But this
exactly.
But
so if we get these schools to go over and play these schools and make them come play us, or they have to stay up and watch a game, you know, in Pacific time. That's just gonna be more eyeballs, and then more people are gonna watch, and so that's kind of where my idea was. Is like they're not watching anyway, and so that's why we're going for the money. Is so let's force these people to watch these teams.
I think a better way to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish is have a playoff, split it, 16 teams, 8 from the East, 8 from the West. And then
I agree.
And then you play
playoff.
each other. You know, there's no West versus West. It's West versus East. Split it down or whatever. Come up with something, and that's how you expose people. But I think like at least in American sports, American sports, even college football forever has just been driven by capitalism. You know, and the just money. Especially the last 10 years of college football is insane how much money has come into it.